Hello, my name is Fenna. Welcome to the Self-Compassion channel. I am a certified coach and counselor, and I work with people in a limerent episode and also with their partner. Now, limerent, what's worse than being in a limerent episode? It's being in a mutual limerent episode. That means that on both sides you are crazy, absolutely obsessive in love with each other, but maybe you want to get out at one point, and in this video I'm going to explain you how. Mutual limerence describes as a state, an altered state of this intense infatuation and attraction between two people where both parties experience this overwhelming, obsessive desire for emotional and physical connection and union. And while mutual limerence may sound great, and maybe it feels great in the beginning, it's also really difficult to get away from. And like any other limerence, it feels great in the beginning, and after we flood our brain with too much dopamine, it doesn't feel great at all anymore. And in this video I will read a letter from somebody who wants to know how to get out of a mutual limerence situation, and of course I will give my ideas on that. So why is both way limerence so difficult to walk away from, to end this relating towards each other? Well, of course it goes far beyond just liking someone. This is an intense longing for an emotional union, and both individuals in this dynamic experience this constant craving of the presence and the validation of their limerent partner. And this intense emotional state can be all-consuming. There are poor boundaries in most cases and a deep sense of dependency/codependency. And since limerence always feeds off on obstacles and difficulties, in this case with mutual limerence it's no different. There are also obstacles, mismatches, and a limited access towards the other person. That's why this happens so much in affairs. There are obstacles, there are difficulties, and there is limited access. I have, by the way, a playlist on the dynamic of affair and limerence in an affair, so if you're curious you can watch the playlist. So why is it so hard to break away from mutual limerence? Well, first of all, you have the very strong emotional bonding. This limerence creates a strong emotional bond between the two persons, and the intense emotional connection formed in over a short period of time makes it too short, by the way, makes it incredibly difficult to imagine a life without this person. It's like, wow, I found this person and I cannot live without this person anymore. And even the idea of giving that up can create a lot of stress in our nerve system. Number two, we have the loss of fear. The intense emotional connection and the euphoria/hormones make a really big barrier to end the relationship, because what if this stops? We don't feel euphoric anymore, and I've heard limerence describe me. I felt 10 years younger when I was in this euphoric state, and I felt 10 years older after I left. And of course, besides this, there's also the mutual validation and the sharing of feelings and the compliments and the exchange of affections and the love bombing and flooding each other with all the greatness. And this reinforces the intensity of the bond. I call this the Romeo and Juliet effect. Like, oh, I found this person, I cannot live without this person anymore, my life will be boring and grey and I just feel like I can't do it. Besides all this, why is it so hard to break free from this super strong, too fast union? It's because we limerents have a lot of biases. you know, we have cognitive dissonance. We at one point, in the beginning, we feel like this person is really everything and this is really great. And then kind of reality sets a little bit in. And then we have these two parts of our brains, the one realistic part of our brain who's saying, you know, what you're doing is kind of harmful. It's not really healthy. This is not good. And there's the other part of our brain who doesn't want to let go, because limerence is very, very tricky. It doesn't want to let go. Now, I have a letter from a viewer who describes the mutual limerence and who's asking me how to deal with that. And of course, I'm going to read the letter and give my view on that. By the way, if you like this video, please consider to give it a like, not only for my ego, but also to create awareness around limerence. Like I said, I have a letter from a viewer. Hi Fenna, I would like to thank you for all your videos and everything you do. It helps me so much, as I learned a lot about my limerence from your videos. I would like to ask to make a video on an affair and mutual limerence, when two people are crazy in love with each other and they are badly mismatched. My long story short, I met the other person a few years ago, who became my best friend, and we bonded so much virtually. We never really met in real life since we live in different countries. We've been in daily communication since the day we'd met, and at one point his fiancée discovered our affair. And since then it's been the most difficult time of our life. His fiancée reached out to my husband with some evidence, so our communication became almost impossible for many months. We don't have a lot of way to communicate anymore. I tried no contact, but it was the most painful, torturing few weeks. He reached out saying that he can't do it. We can't live without knowing how the other one is doing. He's in so much pain daily, such as I am. I keep feeding myself this hope that life will work out in a way that we can be together. But then again, my rational mind says that we are very mismatched. There's an age gap. We live in different countries. There are kids involved. We have financial insecurity and health problems. I'm not sure that all this perfect life is possible with him. I would love it if you would talk about mutual limerence in an affair, and if it's any different than normal limerence. I've been living in an emotional nightmare every day. My adult mind keeps knowing the right thing to do, and my counterfactual thinking keeps me in a different reality. Oh boy. I made notes, so I'm also going to read my notes. And first of all, I want to thank you, viewer, for this very vulnerable email you sent me. And I'm sure that, well, I know that a lot of people can relate to this. And like I said in the beginning, being in a limerent episode is awful, but being in a mutual limerent episode is even worse. So you can have all my empathy, because I hear you and I understand you. But having said that, I am also here to call out the limerence. Not you. You are a victim of the limerence, like all the people around you. Limerence makes many victims, but I'm here to call out the limerence. So I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love. For example, the sentence, I tried no contact, but it was the most painful weeks or few weeks of my life. The only reason why it didn't work is because you didn't try it long enough. And yes, the first weeks are really horrible and they're super painful, but that means that you're starting the detaching process. That means that no contact is actually working. So when my clients tell me, oh yeah, I tried no contact for 2 weeks, I'm like, no, you didn't try it. And of course, who am I to say that you should do this? But you didn't try it long enough to feel the benefits and the effects. My clients tell me sometimes, yeah, how long should I do this? And I tell them, try no contact for at least a year. And then you tell me that it didn't work, because it does. Also the sentence, we can't, this person speaks about our and we, as if they're a union. The sentence, we can't live without knowing what the other is doing. Yes, you can. Of course you can. Okay, here's another little bit of tough love. How unhealthy is it that you cannot live without knowing what somebody else on the other side of the world, who's not your family, it's not your kid, and it's not your spouse, is doing? I mean, you did it before. I assume you lived happily before without knowing what this person is doing. It sounds a little bit like this Romeo and Juliet language, and I get it, I understand it, but again, I'm here to call out the limerence. I'm here to tell the cold hard truth. You know, saying that we can't live without each other. Of course you can. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy for the first few weeks, but of course you can. You're not Romeo and Juliet. Of course you can live without each other. And Romeo and Juliet were kids, by the way. One was 13, the other one was 16. You're more of an adult, and so is the other person. Now, what makes this, of course, very hard to walk away from is that the other person, in this case, in a case of mutual limerence, is in no condition to help you. It's like the blind leading the blind. So depending on them to help you in this is a little bit naive, and it's also not very wise, because you will do this game in attracting each other back over and over and over. So you will have to do this alone. But then again, all limerents will have to do the walking away alone. And you will have to make the decision one day that you don't want this tormention anymore. You don't want this torture anymore. You want to be free and happy again. Now, what always strikes me is on how little the people in a limerent episode in an affair talk about their actually spouse or their kids or their family. It's like sometimes like they don't exist. I've had situations. I don't have this situation anymore because now I ask immediately. But I've had situations in the past when somebody talked on and on and on about the other person and their relationship and how they want to be together. And then at the end of the session they said, oh, by the way, Fenna, I'm married. What? Yeah, that's kind of relevant. That's kind of important information. That's why I ask now. But if you are addicted, and I understand, and like I said, you are a victim, but still, if you are addicted, there is so little headspace for quality time with your kids. And people who are in an affair, most of the time, the limerence people I talk to, they don't even mention their spouse. It's like they don't exist. Okay, if you want to know what is the healthiest thing to do, besides the fact that I think you already know that, is that you have to make a decision. You don't want to do this for another 5 years, right? I mean, this is wrecking your health, you're desperate. This is also influencing, this is influence on the people around you, and you don't sound very happy. You don't want to do this for another 5 or 10 or maybe even longer. So you have to make a decision, because living like this is living out of integrity. You don't want to do that. I ask my clients, okay, if you decide to divorce, to be with this other person, if that's the main reason for your divorce, realize that you're not going to end up happily ever after with this other person. The statistics are very much against you. There are so many mismatches. Besides, limerence is temporary. So if you decide to divorce, of course you have every right as a human being, but realize that you're probably gonna end up alone. And if your answer is, I'd rather be alone than stay in my marriage, I mean, who am I to say that you can't divorce? But realize that you will not be happily ever after with this person. And if you rather not be alone, then by all means stay married, stick it out, and see what's left of the marriage when you have a clear mind and you can have better judgment. Mutual limerence is hard to get away with, but so is every limerent episode, and you'll have to do this alone eventually, and it can be done. You create clarity for yourself. What is it what I want? And you make a decision and you stick with the decision, and you slowly start to realize that maybe, for sure, maybe there is a really good life without this other person, and probably even a better life without this mess that is keeping your mind occupied, and realize that you are distorting your reality. What I tell my clients is, with mutual limerence, you're in this Romeo and Juliet dynamic, and if one says I can't do it anymore, the other one pulls you back in, and it's really difficult to resist. One thing you can do, and it actually works really good, is you burn the bridge. And what I mean by that is not that you have to, make such a fight that the other person hates you, but you can be very, very honest, brutally honest with this person. I wrote something down as an example what you could say. You say, hey, I'm addicted to you, and this is incredibly unhealthy for me. I notice that all the other things in my life are less important, and I am neglecting the things that are important to me, and I'm spiraling out of control. I don't want that, and I'm sure you don't want that for me. Know that my so-called love for you is based on a fantasy, and so is yours, since we never met in this case. Know that every time I try to reach out to you is not because I miss you, well, that's a small part, but it's because my nerve system is freaking out, and I'm using you as an object as you are using me. So know that the next time I contact you, it's not because I miss you, even though I will tell myself that, and I will tell you that, it's because my nervous system is restless and I want it to calm down. I can hear my clients think and say, no, hell no, I'm not going to say that, but consider it, think about it. I mean, it's true, it's the absolute truth. And if you seriously want to get out of this, take out the attraction, take out the Romeo and Juliet in this. This is hormones, you haven't even met each other. You cannot be soulmates without, not even meeting each other. You cannot. So there's something else going on than this, this really good connection. There's something else going on. Yeah, there's an addiction going on. And by explaining this to the other person, you take out the romance and the attractiveness in this to keep on doing this push and pull, oh, we can't live with each other dynamic. So consider it. I had a client this week, we laughed so hard. She was calling her LO kind of a jerk. Also used another word. And she said, yeah, he's an absolute jerk, but okay, I'm afraid that I'm never going to be happy without him. And I kind of, kindly shouted at her, we don't need jerks by our sides to be happy. I think that hit her. We limerents use our feeling as proof that there's something special with this person and we need to be together. Feelings are not proof. Feelings are just feelings. If you are completely in love with somebody, it's not proof that you are a good fit. It's just proof that you are completely in love with somebody. And it's the other way around. The limerence indicates that there are obstacles and there are difficulties. When you would take away the obstacles and the difficulties, the limerence will fade. And so will most of your feelings. So please be very, very aware of that. If you want my help in one-on-one coaching, please send me an email. And for now, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.